Alright guys, so welcome to Online Fat Loss Coaching, our public in-service. Basically this presentation is going to be a review of the latest research, and we're going to focus specifically on fat loss with regards to health, fitness and nutrition. I'm really looking forward to this. Been wanting to do this for a while now, and it's awesome that finally made it a reality. In the hope that it catches on and we can help a lot of people, clients and coaches alike, to see exactly what's working with this sort of stuff. So I'm glad you could make it. Without further ado, we're going to get started. All right. So why are we doing this? Basically, we want to make sure that everyone's understanding the science behind what actually works. Okay, so there's a lot of people out there, the unsung heroes, that are doing a lot of research around what actually works and what's helping people and what's not. It's important to have a look at what's getting done here and what is true. So instead of just listening and following the advice of someone on Instagram who's got 90,000 followers, or anyone like that, including ourselves, you need to look at exactly why fad diets work and why a particular type of training works. The science behind it. Because once you understand that, you can adjust it accordingly instead of just blindly following the examples of other people who maybe they don't quite understand how it works. So that's exactly what we're trying to do here. Now the other thing is we want to make this research simple and easy to implement. Research is a bit complex, with the methods and the data that's applied and it's put into the traditional research papers. The aim of this is to try and just break it down and make it really applicable to coaches to give to their clients, or even to people themselves to apply themselves. So we also want to ensure all coaches and trainers are getting the best results with their clients. And so this is why we run this for our business, our company, Online Fat Loss Coaching. So we've got coaches that have clients, and we want to help them as much as possible, to get the best results and really have a rewarding job and a rewarding experience with their clients. And I guess the last reason is to have the opportunity to continue to grow and develop from these informative discussions. So we hope to get, we've got a special guest today, and we want to get more special guests of his caliber and better, so we can continue to grow and learn what there is out there. So what we're going to discuss today are three main things. We'll spend a bit of time on each topic. Any questions you guys have, you can raise your hand. You can type in the questions box on the right-hand side. And we'll answer them the best we can. Okay, so the three things we're going to be talking about is the structuring of resistance training when trying to lose body fat. So this is what exactly you should be doing in the gym or for your training if you want to lose body fat. Number two is post-workout supplementation. Number three is weight loss plateaus, like what to do when they do eventually happen. All right, so we're going to be covering those three things. To help us cover those three things, we've got a special guest. We've got Miguel Morales, personal trainer. You've probably seen him on Facebook. He's got some pretty awesome stuff on Facebook. He's an online coach, and he does nutrition coaching, personal training, strength and conditioning, body transformation. Miguel, I'll unmute you, mate. Welcome aboard. Glad to have you with us.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for inviting me. Beg your pardon. Excited. I reckon this will be a good little chat for us to kind of get some ideas out there.
Yeah, good stuff. I know you're a bit of
Can you hear me right?
You're a bit of a science nerd as well. So I know you love this sort of stuff. Nothing infuriates you more than the unintelligent and ill-informed Facebook memes.
Right.
But it is bad because there is a lot of stuff out there that's put out there that's too simplistic, and people take this stuff for gospel and take that advice and start eating 20 pineapples a day and stuff because it's going to work, and it's not healthy and it's dangerous. So
and it is tough to kind of, I guess, and I've been a victim of this before early in I've been a PT for nearly 10 years now. Early in my days, I'd kind of listen to anyone that had a decent body and think that was gospel, So it is kind of hard for everyone else to kind of really figure out who to listen to. And I guess that's why we're coming in on board with what you're doing right now. And like you said before, kind of distinguishing what's good information, what's bad information, and yeah, spreading the truth out there.
Yeah, exactly. So, and look, we don't want to badmouth anyone else. Like anyone who's trying to help people and trying to make them healthier and happier, that's awesome. But I guess what happens is people get frustrated that when they don't see the similar results, or they do get injured or ill from poor advice.
No, exactly. I think you like, as much as I have fun, like making fun of some of these guys that kind of put out bro science out there. I think that's purely for my enjoyment more than anyone else's.
Yeah, mate, I enjoy it as well.
Yeah, I think like we can pretty much kind of like all agree that all of these guys that put out, I guess, misinformation really actually have good intentions.
Yeah.
Anyway, like no one's really trying to harm anyone on purpose. They just happen to be misinformed themselves. Like I'm ashamed to kind of say that I used to put out some really dodgy information when I first started, right? And I think that's why retrospect's a pretty strong thing, I guess.
Yeah,
but, yeah, that's what we all learn, right? So
yep.
Yeah, again, no one really intends to hurt anyone, but again, that's what we're trying to make a difference here with this thing that we're doing today. So yeah, hopefully we do get somewhere with this.
Yeah, exactly. I understand exactly what you're saying with regards to putting in poorly informed information out there, because it's similar to our sort of stuff. We've been running our transformation programs for nearly 2 years now, and definitely we've evolved over time as we've become more knowledgeable.
No.
Yeah, but it's not a bad thing. But I guess when a client or a person is following advice because, as you said, the person in it looks really good, and so they're just going to do exactly what they do, that's one thing. But then to understand exactly why that fad diet works, or why, the 80-20 diet works, or why the Atkins diet works, and that's really empowerment, because once you understand that, you can apply it to any part of your life and, take and leave whatever you like and what applies to you. And we're going to get into this.
100%. I think.
Well, as I was saying, we're going to get into this a bit later with regards to weight loss plateaus, and the best kind of diet is the diet that you actually can stick to. But yeah, it's about empowering that person to understand what they can do and not feel like they need to follow someone for the rest of their life. They can apply it to themselves and spread that knowledge.
No, exactly. I think one of the things that we've had a chat about previously, and one of the things we kind of like have mutual agreement on, is that we like to educate our clients rather than just telling them what to do.
Yep.
Right? And if they can understand where we're coming from, they can start to question us, and then from there, keeps us honest too, right? Keeps us. Sure. Yes, we try and be evidence-based. Definitely keep us honest. So rather than just them taking things as gospel, and you will get clients that kind of just want to be told what to do. But again, I find that, at least from my end, that the ones that do the best for me are the ones that question things, and the ones that want to find out more, and that want to learn more. Yeah,
exactly right. And it's those people that want to learn and are empowered. They're the ones that can, tell their spouses, their husband or their wives. They can tell their kids, they can tell their best mate, they can tell their brothers, they can tell their dad or their mum what they learned and how they can apply it. And then you've got that pay it forward effect, where you can influence 100, 200 clients per year, and then those 200 clients can share it with 5 people, and you're sharing your information with 1,000 people. And if you just told them what to do, then they would just tell their significant other, just eat bananas or whatever, and that's how it works. So it's empowering them, giving that knowledge, and they want to spread it. Which enables, imagine every single coach out there, multiplying the amount of people they can impact by 5-6 times. That's pretty awesome.
That'd be ideal for us, I think.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can at least make a bit of a difference. Yeah. We'll see how we go.
For sure, man. All right, well, let's get into it. First up, structuring of resistance training. Okay, so obviously every trainer out there structures their resistance training a little bit differently depending on what the goals are for the client. We specifically deal with fat loss, obviously, here at Online Fat Loss Coaching, and I know you deal with a whole range of clients, some who are after fat loss, some who are after strength, hypertrophy, all that sort of stuff. But for this discussion, we're going to concentrate on fat loss. So I'm interested to hear before we get into breaking down the structure of particular types of training, like what do you look for in a good structuring of an exercise program? Like, what are your main go-to points in regards to fat loss?
One of my main go-to things for most of my clients is, really, it doesn't change from fat loss to hypertrophy a whole heap, at least from my end. In terms of how I structure things, I guess one of the most common, I guess we can call it mistakes, is that people tend to go for like higher reps, you know, thinking it'll get you more shredded, or stereosonic or whatever. And for myself, I'm a big fan of really including strength and hypertrophy training in one's training program.
Yeah, for sure.
It's almost like, I don't know if anyone, I think most people kind of be relatively aware of it, daily undulating periodization, where you've got really kind of different rep schemes within the same program. An alternative to that would be something like block periodization, where you're kind of really focusing on strength for a certain amount of time, and then after that's finished, you focus on hypertrophy within a certain amount of time. Whereas non-linear periodization, you're really kind of working with a couple of different rep schemes where you're doing, like I was saying, doing strength work as well as hypertrophy work within the same training block. I find that personally works most efficient in terms of maintaining strength and even possibly gaining strength during a fat loss phase. You know, of course, like maintaining muscle as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what a lot of guys, particularly who come to us, are after. You know, they're not after just to lose weight and get skinny, but they do want to, you know, increase their strength and, you know, feel stronger and, you know, increase a bit of muscle mass. So to do that at the same time is awesome, to kill those two birds with one stone, as you would say.
Yep, exactly.
All right, well, let's...
Exactly. And
go on, sorry.
No, go on. No, you go on.
I was just going to say, we'll get into it right now. Basically, we're going to break down every component of resistance training, every option that you've got. So firstly, when you choose a movement, I guess you've got the option of isolated exercises versus compound movements. Now, for those who don't know, isolated exercises, I think technically are involving 2 or less joints of movement, and then compound movements are greater than 2. So isolated exercises, for example, are something like bicep curls, where you're only really working the elbow joint and the glenohumeral joint, you know, isolating that bicep muscle. Whereas a compound movement, something like a squat, okay, something a bit larger. So what do you go for, Migs, when you're structuring resistance training? Do you use both? Do you only use isolated? Are you more leaning towards compound movements?
You definitely use both. Although some clients need it more than others. Again, you'll get clients that are more the bodybuilder type of person. Again, there's this whole thing about compound movements being superior than isolation exercises, but that's kind of a little bit ignorant. I'd like to think in that as much as you get, let's say, bicep activation in lat pull downs, you still get a lot as well in bicep curls, right? As much as I make fun of like squat rack curls and all that. But, the way I kind of structure compound isolation, I kind of really have a hierarchy of movement. So it starts from compound movements and it kind of dwindles down to, like, I guess, less important movements where they tend to become isolation movements. So let's say I might use, let's say for a back, upper body, or a pull workout of some sort. I might start with, say, weighted pull-ups, and I might start with lat pull, and I might start with Pendlay rows, and then start working my way into, like, say, bicep curl variations of some sort. So it's just kind of like, just kind of structure them in a hierarchy of sorts. Cool. I think from a fat loss perspective, the reason why I think it is people are more inclined to include the compound and larger movements because they do involve larger muscle groups, and naturally the more muscle groups that are involved, the more energy that's going to be required, you know, to break down adenosine triphosphate and get that movement happening. But then also obviously the recovery for those muscles is going to require energy. So the theory is behind it that the larger amount of muscles that you're using, the more calories your body's going to burn in order to feed those muscles, you know, to put it in a really simple way. Would you agree with that? No, 100%. 100%.
Cool. So Yeah, look, with regards to isolation and compound movements, I think if you want the easiest answer, yeah, the compound larger movements are going to be the one that's going to be most efficient. But isolated exercises definitely have their role, you know, and maybe not in burning fat, but in a whole other range of things. If you're starting a gym program and you haven't lifted many weights before, I think isolation exercise is going to be really important to create muscle balance, you know, to ensure that you're going to be biomechanically sound as you're going through this weight loss regime. Because if you don't have that, you can get overuse injuries. You can get muscle imbalance, which is going to cause you problems and maybe will cause you to miss training for a couple of months. I mean, what issue is that? What's that going to do to your fat loss? You know, so although isolated exercises don't directly, affect fat loss as much as compound exercises, not doing them can be detrimental, and it can be detrimental to your fat loss. So I think it's just a balance. But
no, exactly, and a lot of people, kind of these beginners, tend to just overdo it way too early with isolation exercises, and then I guess I've been a victim of it before, and I tend to sometimes skimp out on the isolation stuff and just stick to my compound stuff, and then forget about my accessories, which really have a role in terms of kind of like keeping me strong.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I can do those compound movements.
Yeah, exactly what you said. So Miguel, what he's saying then with the accessory muscle groups is in the fact that if you're training your isolated muscle groups separately, you're able to lift more and be stronger with your compound movements, such as a squat or such as a bench press or something like that, as a result of isolated training. And obviously, if you're lifting more and lifting heavier, you're going to see greater strength and greater fat loss improvements. So, the lesson here, I think, is to involve both. But yeah, definitely not skimp out on the compound movements. That's the biggest mistake we see beginners make. And people who go to the gym and say, you know, I've been going to the gym all, 2 months or something, and I just can't seem to lose any body fat. It's probably because they're doing, hamstring curls and bicep curls and calf raises and stuff, and using all the machines, and not getting anywhere from there. So that's that in a nutshell.
Done. Easy.
Speaking of hamstring curls, machines or free weights? What's your answer?
For myself, a lot of it's personal preference.
Yep.
And just the way I like to work. Primarily for my guys, we do tend to use more free weights.
Yes, us too.
But of course, machines have their place as well. It's a bit like compound movements and then machines. Machines do kind of get ragged on a fair bit, but again, they do have their place, and there are some really good machines out there. There are some better than others. I tend to favor machines like, say, hammer strength machines. I'm a big fan of them, for machines anyway, but definitely free weights in terms of fat loss, I guess, and really maximizing, muscle activation. Free weights, they're pretty tough to kind of trump in that way.
Exactly.
Again, depending on the movements, though.
Yeah, definitely. So, as Mick said, time under tension and the amount of tension that a muscle goes under is, will heavily determine what the body does to that muscle in the hours after training. So, when a muscle's been worked using a free weight, it has to, carry that load and that balance a lot more than, say, a machine in general. That's why, free weights are a little bit better in that regards. But as you said, machines do have their role, especially if you're trying to teach people new movements. It can be really great to have the machines so they don't injure themselves. It can prevent that. But I think the reason why we use free weights with our clients is because we want to teach them that you don't need a massive gym with all these massive machines, to stay healthy and, stay in routine. You can have a set of dumbbells, and maybe a medicine ball or something like that in the back of your car, and if you can't get to the gym or you're out on holiday or something, you can use that to your advantage and really structure an awesome routine just using free weights that can be as effective as a full-on gym session.
No, exactly. Like a good, really efficient way I like to prescribe, even like HIIT workouts, high-intensity interval training. I'm sure we'll cover this at some point. Is something as simple as like a barbell complex of some sort.
Yeah.
Right? So let's say a back squat, literally empty barbell. You can be a guy, the strongest guy in the world. Give this a crack for yourself. Just a 20 kilo standard Olympic barbell, do 10 squats, 10 rows, 10 presses, do that 10 times and see how you feel if you try and do that as fast as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's just the most simple thing you can prescribe to someone.
Yeah, and it doesn't require that much equipment at all, and that's using a massive amount of muscle groups with those compound movements.
Exactly.
And it's fun as well. It's interesting, like it's different. Yeah, it's not, some people don't like that gym atmosphere, and they can find it a bit boring, confined within the four walls. So, we encourage you to get out there and try new things. As you probably know, Migs, I love my rings, so I take my rings everywhere I go with me, and I can set up my rings, anywhere, like on a tree or on soccer goals, and in any location, and get a really good workout from there. So.
No, exactly. I've invested like some money in my own TRX setup. I don't know. I'm pretty sure everyone knows what a TRX is. It's just suspension training. It's kind of like based on the rings.
Yep.
And I took mine to Thailand and hung it off a tree. I was getting bitten by ants and stuff, but at least I got to work out at the beach. But
I don't know how ants can help with your fat loss. That might be a different.
Well, they made me speed up my reps. I guess made me burn a little bit more body fat then. But anyways.
All right, sweet. So machines and free weights, both have their role. And this is what we're saying. Like the idea of this, guys, is not to say you have to do this. You have to eat 10 bananas a day or whatever. It's understanding what role everything has with regards to your own fat loss and weight loss journey. Okay, so take what you will.
It's not necessarily black and white. A lot of the stuff we'll chat about today, and we've already kind of like covered that, is a lot of the stuff isn't black and white. A lot of it is it's kind of like a continuum. Like you kind of fall in between sometimes.
Yeah.
Two places,
Yeah, absolutely, and people need to understand that, and that's the biggest issue with the whole clean eating versus if it fits your macros and everything, because they think that's black and white. They think that either one is right and the other one is wrong, where that's not the case at all. And we won't get into this right now because we'll probably be here for about 4 hours talking about it.
No. Well, I mean, I can kind of I guess summarize it pretty quickly. You can get people that, I'm into my flexible dieting for fits your macros, but you get the people that take to extremes and all they eat is Pop-Tarts, all they eat is ice cream, and they feel like shit, right? And then you get all the clean eating people that are borderline having eating disorders, but really there's a happy medium to be like that you can go to between those two.
Yep.
Balance, really, right?
Yep. Everything in moderation.
Exactly.
Cool.
We'll leave that at that before I get into it too much, right?
Yeah, that's right. We'll leave it there. All right, short rest periods versus longer rest periods. Now, in Alan Aragon's research review last month, he reviewed Villanueva's paper regarding basically there was a really well put together study in older men structuring resistance training, and they were all compound movements like squats and that sort of thing. And yeah, one group did 4 sets of 10 with 60 seconds rest in between sets, and the other group did 4 sets of 10 with 4 minutes rest in between sets. And the conclusion was that the group that had the 60-second rest period actually had greater strength gains and greater hypertrophy gains in total, which, as we know, for older populations, it's vital, to prevent osteoporosis, improve balance, all that sort of thing. Lifting is really, really important as we get older, and that's been proven in many, many studies. So it's directly linked with prolonging life, because they find that people who aren't lifting lose that strength when they do lose that balance, when they do fall over. A whole bunch of events happen that leads to an early death in an elderly population. So I really liked reading that paper. I don't know if you've seen it, but he just said, put simply, the short rest interval.
I haven't actually.
The short rest interval group was training closer to failure. That was the review. That was the conclusion. So because they only had 60 seconds rest, they were able to go to failure at the end of each set, and that's why they gained more strength and more size. So what did you think about those results?
I haven't read that one specifically. I've only really kind of heard of it through, again, Aragon's review. But another one that I was reading recently was one that Brad Schoenfield, who's a good mate of Alan Aragon, reviewed. where I can't remember the actual like rest times, what the two differences were between the two groups, and I can't remember the population as well, but I'm pretty sure they were younger and they were semi-decently trained, but I'm sure I can put up a link at some point when I get a chance. But what he found in that particular review was that it didn't really matter too much how long they're rested for, as long as you kept the training volume around about the same. So I guess one other way to kind of think of it is you can rest for a long time, you can rest for a short amount of time as long as it doesn't affect your overall training volume. And training volume is your sets, reps versus weight, right? So hypertrophy pretty much is one of the biggest things that hypertrophy is influenced by is your training volume. So if you take like a 10-second rest period between sets and you end up doing half the amount of volume than if you took slightly longer rest, then obviously shorter rest period there won't necessarily be the most optimal. So what Schoenfield ended up summarizing in his review there is you can pretty much self-select your rest periods as long as it doesn't affect your training volume.
Exactly. That's a really, really awesome point to make. So the rest periods are there to maximize your training volume, so the amount of output that your muscles are getting. So if your rest period is too short and you're unable to complete the fourth set of 10, then you need to increase your length. If you're, I guess the only disadvantage of a long rest period is purely just because time, because you don't want to spend 3 hours in a gym. You know what I mean?
No, exactly.
If you are a professional bodybuilder, you've got time to do that sort of stuff, well then go for it. But all of our clients are working guys, and they honestly don't have time to spend an hour and a half, 2 hours in the gym. So that's the reason why we do short rest periods more than anything, and also because it does feel like you get a good workout done when you're pumping them out. You're sticking to a quick workout, and it makes you more disciplined. One
of the ways I even like kind of mess around and modulate rest periods is I might run a training block for someone. It might be as little as 2 weeks, it might be up to about 4 weeks, where I give them short rest periods while working with relatively high percentages, right? And that's just so when they come off of that, after they deload or whatever, they come off of that, they can improve recovery times. So time to fatigue just increases. So that way, when they are working with heavier weights, they don't have to rest as long just because they've improved.
Exactly.
Their recovery times. So that's again a different way to think of things in terms of recovery. So rest times.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess while we're talking about this, like how many reps? So for fat loss, how many reps per set do you suggest?
Specifically for fat loss? It's a range, man. I can't give you one set, but it can be anywhere between 10 to 15. It can even be between 6 and 20. So this is kind of comes down to, again, there's no black and white with this sort of stuff. It really depends. A good, easy kind of way to kind of, I guess, give you an answer is that for compound movements, I tend to stick with lower reps, and then for more compound movements, I tend to stick with like lower reps. Whereas isolation exercises, I tend to go with higher volume or higher reps. So
cool. So like
again, there's no. Go on. Sorry.
Deadlifts and squats, kind of lower reps, maybe reps of 6 to 8 or something like that, and then isolation stuff, a bit higher.
Yeah, exactly. So deadlifts are a good example. So for myself, depending on the person, depending on what I'm trying to achieve with them, I might not prescribe much more than 5 reps in any one set for someone. And then for, like say again, biceps, I keep going back to biceps, I might prescribe up to say 15 or even 20 reps for them.
Spot on.
Per set.
Cool. And you know what I love about this discussion is that people get so hung up on reps, like the amount of reps to do, like, you're doing 8 reps, why aren't you doing 10? At the end of the day, it's all about load and
it's training volume again. So hypertrophy will, again, we need recovery from hypertrophy, and that's what I guess relates to fat loss here. But even maintaining muscle, or even possibly putting on muscle during a deficit or a cut, like again, it's all about really overall volume. And frequency,
And I think what people fail to understand, and we're going to get into this a little bit after we talk about resistance training, is that what really makes a difference between whether someone hits their fat loss goals, and massively reduces their weight compared to those who aren't, hasn't got anything to do with whether someone does 8 reps per set or 10 reps per set. Like, it is so much of a muchness that's ridiculous. You get 2 people in a room that stick to a program and never miss a session, and eat healthily as well, and they do that for 6 months to a year or whatever. If one of them does 4 sets of 8 and the other one does 4 sets of 14, like, they'll both achieve their goals. And it's not a matter of one is better than the other. Sure, maybe one of them will achieve it a little bit quicker, but in the grand scheme of things, like, people need to be not hung up on that sort of stuff, and I think as well as coaches need to be not too hung up on that sort of stuff. You need to structure your resistance program in a way that people are going to do it and actually finish it and actually complete it and actually do it day by day, week by week, continuously, because that's what's going to get them the results.
No, exactly. And one other thing I guess we haven't covered yet, I don't know if you're going to bring this up at all, is just you have to kind of know when to back things up and when to really kind of, I guess, kick things up. So if someone's in a fat loss phase and they're really deep in the diet, you probably don't want to really be prescribing too many super low volume, high intensity training. Well, at least for myself anyway, for some of the typical clients that we get, because of high risk injuries. They're not getting big pardon?
They will just break down.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can be smarter, but there's very smart ways to go about it. And I'm not saying you can't do it, but for things like that, you do run the high risk of, I guess, injury or burning someone out, or I guess overtraining gets thrown around a fair bit. But overreaching even, there's a high risk to that. So you definitely have to kind of be smart about your programming when it comes to fat loss, and definitely have to consider a whole heap of things.
Yep, definitely.
When it comes to ideal rep schemes.
And we're not going to cover that in this one. Maybe that'll be another time. But periodising your trainings, like Miguel was saying. So you're going hard a few weeks and then going easy other weeks. To make sure you're not overtraining, that sort of thing. But I think in the grand scheme of things, it's only a very small percentage of the population overtrain, and that's the reason why they don't hit their goals. I mean, like George can vouch for me, our old man, our dad, Jez, he is just an overtrainer. Like, that's the only issue. Like, he never misses a session, never does anything else wrong. But every time he doesn't reach a goal, it's because he's overtrained. It's because he's gotten sick, or he's gotten injured and missed big amounts of his training.
I mean, again, like you said, we cover this in a different time, I guess. But overtraining, or I guess, because it happens so infrequently, it gets confused a lot with overreaching. And overreaching is not a bad thing. Overreaching can be a good thing in the sense, sometimes some training programs even purposely overreach you, overtrain you, just so you can get that super compensation after you do a deload. And that's how we function as human beings. If you remove stimuli after like a heavy training load, and that's where super compensation can happen, and that's when we actually can get those strength gains. But again, people will kind of get too caught up in the whole overtraining is a bad thing, overtraining is this. Way too many articles on bodybuilding.com, I think. But that's a massive kind of bit of I guess misinformation that gets thrown out there a fair bit. But again, different topic for a different time, I think.
Exactly. All right. So how many sets? Same thing. I look at it as you talk about training volume, and I look at it as common sense. It's common maths. If someone does 3 sets of 8, and then someone does 4 sets of 12, 3 times 8 is 24. I hope I got that right. And 4 sets of 12 is 48. So the 4 sets of 12, you're actually doing double the amount of work. Now, ensuring that if you're lifting the same weight, and ensuring that you're not overtraining in the 4 sets of 12. Obviously, the person that lifts 4 sets of 12 is going to get a better effect than the person that lifts 3 sets of 8. Would you agree?
I
mean, same weight. If they're lifting the same weight, I mean.
Yeah. Same weight probably will, I guess, get a bit of a difference in results.
Yep. But if they're lifting different weights, obviously, if they're lifting 3 sets of 8 with a much heavier weight, then that's a whole different story.
That's a whole different story in itself. Yep.
Yeah, but what I find people do is they pick a weight where it's quite tough, and they get to the 8th rep or the 10th rep or whatever, you know, and they're really close to failure and they're really struggling and they don't pump out the last 2. You know, and if they do that for 3 sets, at the end of the 3 sets, obviously they're stuffed. They don't want to do the 4th set. That's, you know, and that's what they do. So they end up doing 30 reps total. Whereas someone who can do does the 10 reps, but you know what, I can do an extra 2 here, and they do 12. You know, and they get that out. They just get that out, and then after they do 3 sets, yeah, sure, they're really stuffed, but they know that they've got another 1 or 2 minutes to rest, and they can go again, and they do the 4th set, and even if they don't get to the 12, they get to 11 or something like that. You know, overall, they've done 48 reps of someone compared to when they could have easily have settled with 30 or 24. You know, and still felt like they did the same amount. You know, and I've been a victim of this as well. You know, so I think it's you need to pick amount of reps and sets that you know you're going to be able to do. You know, and you need to be able to push them out, and you know, not sabotage yourself, I guess, and not cop out.
No, definitely not. A different way, kind of, I guess, think of this is to again, let's go back to like training volume. So for hypertrophy, you really need to achieve sufficient volume to get that hypertrophic response, right? So if you're kind of being, not lazy, I guess, wimping out on the last few reps, and it means you're not hitting your, I guess, optimal range of reps and sets, then you're really doing yourself a disservice because you're not getting, you won't end up getting that hypertrophic response. Yep.
And for people who don't know, hypertrophy is purely to do with muscle mass increasing. So dem gains, as I think the technical term is.
Gains.
But yeah, in fat loss, hypertrophy is shown to definitely have a positive impact on fat loss. And we talked about that before with regards to the more muscle mass there is, the more energy that's required to maintain that muscle mass and you know, and help with its recovery post workout. So hypertrophy is definitely optimal for men and women in fat loss. You know, it's just up to you and your trainer of how much hypertrophy you want, and then structuring your training around that.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, supersetting agonist antagonist muscle groups. For fat loss, do you do it?
For some clients, yes. For short training blocks, I usually like to throw it in there just as I guess you can call it a bit of an intensity phase.
Yes.
And it can be really useful for people that are very, I guess, low on time.
Yes, exactly, and that's exactly the reason why we do it. So, again, we've got all our clients are working class guys. You know, they're all working hard. We put supersets in there not because you know, it's shown to burn X amount of fat in faster time or whatever. We do put it in there because, you know, they want to get in the gym and get out and get back to their families after a hard day at work, you know, and you know, they want to enjoy it. And I think a lot of them, from the feedback we've got, is that they enjoy the supersetting. They enjoy getting straight back into another exercise immediately after finishing an exercise.
Yeah, no, exactly. And the thing about it too is it makes you feel like you've actually, obviously, not to take away from your standard kind of, I guess, bro bodybuilder type of workouts or even your powerlifter style workouts. When you start supersetting things, you will get a sweat going. It feels like you've done work, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just satisfying. It's just satisfying.
Yeah, and if you're satisfied with what you're doing, it's more likely that you're going to keep doing it. Whereas if you're unsatisfied, and that's the hard thing with fat loss, is it's really hard to see results sometimes, especially initially. And that can be kind of unmotivating, you know, because you're like, I'm doing this work, but I don't feel like I'm really working that hard. I'm not really seeing results. Is this actually working? Should I continue with this? You know what I mean? Like, that's the questions that go through people's heads. You know, but when you're supersetting...
Yeah, and you'll get people... Sorry, go on.
Yeah, go on, you say.
Go on. No, I was going to say, you sometimes get, and I don't know if you guys experience this at all, you get sometimes people that have come to you, or I guess me in this case, where they tend to have been more cardio kind of type of cardio bunnies, I call them.
Yeah, cardio bunnies.
Where they're kind of used to being puffed out or getting a sweat going every workout, and they're not used to weight training where they're taking 3 minutes to rest and they're not really necessarily getting, like they might be getting stronger and they might be definitely building muscle on that, but they're not necessarily getting much of a sweat compared to like cardio.
Yeah.
Like supersetting things is a good way to kind of make them do strength work and still make them feel like they've done I guess the cardio sort of work where they get the sweat going.
Yep, spot on. Yeah, I'm definitely I guess a past cardio bunny, I guess, but I do like getting the sweat on and feeling like I've done well on my workout.
Yeah, again, definitely feels like it's quite satisfying.
All right, so purely for resistance training, not for cardio, not for intervals, how many sessions per week? Now, if I'll answer my theory on this to start with, and then you can agree with me, disagree with me, and tell me what you feel. But basically, I tell my clients this, is that if they want to achieve something, and especially with hypertrophy, say they've got like a problem area with their pecs or their biceps or something like that, how many sessions per week resistance training should I do? And my answer is always, if you want to grow your pecs or grow your biceps, then you should be doing as many sessions per week as possible at maximum intensity for that growth period, as long as you have adequate enough time in between sessions for your muscles to completely recover and for you to be able to train at 100% intensity again for that next session. It's no good training biceps every single day, because the next day after your session on Monday, on Tuesday, you won't be able to lift the same amount of weight, so therefore the session will be ineffective. So it's about finding that balance between the amount of rest days or rest time in between sessions, and trying to maximize that. And that's the big issue with doping in sport, like drugs in sport, is that they don't take drugs just to have increased performance on race day or on competition day, but these drugs are designed to help them recover faster so they can get more sessions in and therefore continue to grow their athletic ability through that. So I guess my answer for sessions per week is that for our clients, we get them to do 3 or 4 sessions a week, because we get them working quite hard with a lot of different body parts in their compound movements, and so it's good to have a day off in between each of their weight sessions and allow them to recover, so the next time they're back in the gym, they're able to participate 100% again. It'd be interesting to see what your thoughts are on that, Mix.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few different ways to kind of really think about it. I'm very much a proponent of higher frequency training. So higher frequency for me is anywhere between 2 to 3 sessions, or 2 or 3 workouts per week for that same movement. So one of the biggest benefits I see, at least definitely in like the average Joe or even beginner type clients, is that they can practice the movement a lot more often and get good at it. Yeah. Right? So if you teach them how to squat, like for myself, like I'm very much OCD about my squat technique, and for the type of clients that I get, they tend to kind of see that and want to kind of almost emulate that. So I will get them squatting sometimes up to 4 times a week, but how I achieve that, just I make it so it's not super intense every single session. So it might be a more intense session and then a lighter session and another intense session and then an easier session again, and kind of just structure it that way where they can end up doing the same amount of training sessions but not necessarily overtrain or overdo things too early. Or another way that I do it even for new clients is if they're learning a new movement for myself, I won't actually tell them it's a strength training program. This is just practice the skill. It's a lot of the stuff that we do in the gym, I guess, for myself with my Olympic lifting now, is very technical, so you do need to practice it more frequently. So again, going back to strictly hypertrophy and fat loss, another way I guess we can think of it is we need to consider that really muscle protein synthesis, so I guess muscle building, post-training, that response that we get peaks anywhere between 24 to 36 hours after training. After a training session, right? So you can really consider that when you start doing your programming, and that you don't need a whole week to recover from that training session, because if you train chest on Chest Mondays, everyone knows Chest Mondays, if you train chest on Monday, International Chest Day, by Wednesday you're good to go to train again. You might be a little bit sore, and DOMS is not necessarily an indicator of like recovery, and that's a different topic for a different time, but you're good to go by Wednesday again, and then train on Wednesday, and then you can do that same body part again on the Friday if you wanted to, right?
Exactly.
Without necessarily affecting your, I guess, your training adaptations. So in this case, hypertrophy or fat loss.
Yep. And yeah, spot on. Like, who do you think, if we compare those two guys that we're talking about before, one did 4 sets of 12, the other guy did 3 sets of 8, every session. Say they were doing that for pecs on Mondays, but the guy that did 4 sets of 12, the guy that did 3 sets of 8 is doing much less on Mondays, but then he trained pecs on Wednesdays and Fridays, where the guy who did 4 sets of 12 was just doing chesty Mondays as usual. Who's going to get the better results with regards to pec adaptation and pec hypertrophy over the course of a few months? Obviously, the guy is doing 3 sessions a week, even though he's doing less reps. He's doing triple the amount of sessions a week. So it's
no, exactly. Again, just comes down to training volume again.
Yeah, spot on. And this is what people still, I can't stress this enough, people still don't understand this. Like, the reason why people don't get results isn't because it's, isn't to the minutiae details of their training programs. It's purely because you're just not doing enough over a consistent period of time.
Yeah, the overall picture. The big picture thing is a lot of the time what's missing in people.
Yeah. So, look, if you're looking for a golden number of sessions per week, if you can consistently do 3 or 4 sessions per week over the course of a year, ring me up, and if you don't have any results at the end of that year, I'll personally train you for the rest of your life for free, because you can't say that you're doing 4 sessions a week for a year. As long as the sessions are good, obviously you need to be actually training, not just sitting there like on your iPhone or something. But yeah, like it's
definitely.
If people come to us and say, I've been going to the gym 5 times a week for the last couple of months, and I'm not seeing any results, and then you actually analyse how many sessions they've done over the last 2 months, and it turns out that they've done like 14 sessions in 2 months, and then you divide that by 8 weeks, and then they're averaging 1.8 sessions per week, and you're like, well, if you went to the gym 1.8 times per week, do you think you're going to see results? And it's just it's this idea of, we like to kid ourselves, I think, of what actually is going on, and that's why we tell all our clients what gets measured gets managed, and so you always have to measure, whether it's in your diary or just on your iPhone notes, just write down how many sessions you did that week. And, if you hit your 3 or 4, give yourself a fucking high five. Like, that's awesome. Because that's all you need to do is keep that consistency going.
Yeah, definitely. I think people a lot of the time give themselves way too much credit for the amount of work that they think they're doing. And if you write it down, or even, again, have a chat about it or whatever, and you realize they're actually not doing all that much, or they could be doing a little bit more.
The calendar never lies. Never lies.
No, it doesn't. It does not.
Cardio before or after a strength session?
Am I going first, or you?
Mate, you go. I went first last time.
Okay. I'm very much a fan of, so strictly for fat loss.
Yes.
Again, unless you've got intentions on looking like a professional dieter and just skinny fat, or not skinny fat, just skinny, full stop, you really like doing yourself a disservice if you're doing cardio, or at least HIIT cardio, at the start of your strength sessions, for the simple fact that you'll be tired. You won't be able to, again, going back to training volume, what are the chances that if you've done, say, 5 by 500 on the rower, which anyone who's done that before knows that's killer, what are the chances you can go and do a heavy squat session after that and achieve the same amount of volume in that same session than if you didn't do that row at the start? So,
I agree completely. It's very unrealistic to think that you can be training at 100% of your ability in the gym directly after doing a really hard cardio session. So we put all our cardio or our interval or metabolic finishes or whatever we're giving guys at the end of their weight session. That way they're able to train at maximum intensity with regards to their muscle groups during the weight session. And then the cardio is purely, as you said, it's to get the heart rate up. It's just to, to get that sweat going. So it doesn't matter if they can't push out as much weight. It's more about the heart rate and, getting that happening.
No, exactly. I mean, you get a lot of people too that, again, going back to the cardio bunny type of people, they just can't not do cardio at the start of their weight training session and expect to really change how they look. These guys are going to us to change how they look. Let's face it, this fat loss thing, it could be very well a health thing as well, but for the most part, a lot of our guys that come to us are looking to change their appearance.
Yes.
So you're really doing yourself a disservice if you just, and I understand that it takes time to kind of undo old habits by doing cardio at the start or whatever, but yeah, you're really doing yourself a disservice by not prioritizing strength training, which will be what your body's going to respond to in terms of changing how you look.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not to say that, that you can't get fit and look good just doing cardio. You know, we're not saying that. But if you want to maximize your ability to drop body fat, then it's been scientifically researched that strength training needs to be a part of your regime. And then obviously if you're going to do strength training, you want to be doing it to the best of your ability. So no cardio before your gym, guys.
Yep. At least nothing too brutal anyway.
Yeah, exactly. You need to warm up.
Yeah,
don't go straight into it. All right. Lastly, just very quickly, pre-exhaustion. It's funny because that article I was talking about before, and which one was it? The review of.
The Villanueva one.
I think it was compound exercises versus isolation exercises.
Yeah.
And how they did an EMG study on pecs. People doing pec deck before bench press, with the idea of, if I fatigue my pecs when I do bench, it's going to fatigue them even more, and that volume is going to increase. Therefore, I'm going to get a better result. Then counterintuitively, what they found was that by pre-exhausting the pecs with pec deck before bench press, they found that the triceps actually increase activation in bench press, not the pecs. So, in conclusion, for what I've concluded from pre-exhaustion is that, and obviously pre-exhaustion is just a bodybuilder thing, to try and increase hypertrophy. Look, it doesn't seem like it's going to make that much of a difference. For people that are struggling to put on size, it's probably to do with your training volume over time. Yep. Again, as it always is. It's probably because you're just not training hard enough, consistently enough over an extended period of time, combined with an adequate nutrition protocol. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things, again, that people need to worry about a whole heap of different other things before needing to start worrying about pre-exhaustion.
Exactly. That's really well put. It's just one of those bro things that that people think they're gonna get them to where they want to go. And there's so many other things they need to worry about before they need to start thinking about pre-exhaustion. Yeah.
I've done that back in my bro days. Good old pec flies and then do some bench press and stuff like that. But honestly, the only thing that really made me kind of, get my results there, I just kind of got my strength training in full stop, just focus on my compound movements and get my training volume in there and just be consistent. Exactly.
And that leads into something that's really, that I want to talk about now, is we'll have thoughts on that afterwards, but post-workout supplementation, and this is exactly what you said before. I think so many people are worrying so much about their post-workout supplementation. I think that's such a little thing that people need to worry about in regards to the overall picture. There's so many more things they should be concentrating on other than what protein powder they should be taking or what recovery drink they should be taking. Now, don't get me wrong, recovery is important, nutritionally, but overall there is so much more important things. Like we said, is training volume, and make sure you're training efficiently and training consistently, getting your 3 to 4 sessions in per week. Once you're doing that consistently, then you can start thinking about, okay, maybe how do I get this extra 1 or 2% out of my training by the proper supplementation. I want to get your thoughts on it. We don't recommend any supplementation to our clients. So we do it, we just tell our guys that, it's a lifestyle thing for you guys. We want to teach you guys how to get the right nutrients from food, and not that you have to rely on pills or powders or that sort of thing to be healthy day in, day out. Okay, so it's a convenience thing as well as just a knowledge thing that you don't have to have that sort of stuff.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Again, we got to look at the purest definition of the word supplement, and it's just that. It's meant to supplement your diet. So if you're not getting what you need from your normal diet, you need to work on that first before you need to look at supplements. And the thing with supplements too, I don't know if we will get into this at all, but post-workout supplements is probably one of those things that people worry about the most. And this is a perfect example of kind of worrying about certain things before anything else, and that like people go, I'm so sore, I'm so this, I'm so that, I'm not recovering. I think I need a protein supplement post-workout, within 0.0036 seconds after my last set of bench press.
Yep.
Just so I recover better. But look, you know what's going to help you recover and be less sore is actually if you increase your training volume or training frequency, you're going to get less sore. And that's just fact.
Yep.
If you bench press once a week, you're going to be pretty freaking sore after that bench session because you're not doing training frequently enough. But if you speak to anyone, any of these powerlifters, they hardly really get that sore because they're training sometimes, almost benching 3-4 times weekly, because their body can handle it. Your body got used to that frequency. So if you can just get your frequency up there, like we spoke about before, you won't have to worry about that post-workout protein shake, in the milliseconds of your last set.
Yep.
And supplement, yes, for myself, the things that supplement are the things that really we tend to struggle to get from normal food anyway. So most people don't eat enough fish. So one of the things I recommend is fish oil and getting sufficient amounts of that. Yep. The other thing we seem to not get, I guess, in different times of the year, at least in Australia, is enough vitamin D. So that's one of the things I recommend.
Yep.
Getting some vitamin D in there. And we'll talk about the benefits of that, I guess, in a different conversation or a different webinar or whatever. But those are the things I tend to recommend. Or, as we all know, with our guys, or I guess I shouldn't really assume that too much, but just in case we didn't, like for protein needs, for anyone dieting, we usually increase protein needs compared to if you weren't dieting or if you want a surplus. So some of our guys, or at least some of my guys anyway, tend to have a little bit of trouble getting enough protein in their diets when they're dieting. So sometimes protein supplements can be more convenient.
Yep.
Ideally, though, for my guys anyway, I tell them, look, you will honestly want to eat your protein as much as possible. It's going to keep you fuller for longer. Most likely it will taste better. But for the most part, it will keep you satiated a lot better than, say, a liquid drink.
Yeah, spot on.
So, yeah, that's where I'm coming from anyway.
No, I agree. I think it's definitely all about what's convenient to you, and we touched on what's going to get you the best results personally. So, yeah, we need to make sure that you're not relying on this sort of stuff in order to get your results. But, if you are struggling to get the adequate amount of protein in, then it's protein powder is something that's good to go to.
Exactly.
You talked about fish oil as well. That's something that has been researched quite well with regards to the healthy fats that are in the fish oil, and can be recommended, with scientific confidence that that's going to have a positive health impact on you. So, it's one of the rare things out there on the market with regards to supplements that has been researched enough, to have that confidence in prescribing.
Oh, definitely. It's so cheap as well. It's almost no excuses to not take fish oil or take sufficient amounts of fish oil. Don't worry about that krill oil business. We'll not get into the sufficient amounts of protein, fish oil that we need or whatever. But it's just so cheap, and it's just not even really, the benefits outweigh anything else. Yeah, and there's no reason not to take it.
No reason not to take it. Yeah, exactly. But it's not something that people need to rely on and go, oh no, I didn't take my fish oil today. No one feels that.
Exactly.
No one trying.
Yeah.
It's not designed to that, and you shouldn't become addicted to your supplements.
No, you're not gonna lose your gains if you don't, get your fish oil in the morning, right? So I think you'll be fine. So in conclusion, after you work out, it's probably smarter to eat something, or consume something, instead versus going 10 hours without consuming anything after you work out. But it's not going to make a difference whether you get something in straight away or get something in an hour later or 2 hours later. And likewise, it's not going to make that much of a difference in the long term whether post-workout you're having a really, really expensive supplementation shake compared to, just a nutritious meal. So, and we're talking purely for fat loss reasons here for the everyday guy. We're not talking about professional athletes, who are training with confidence. They're training really, really efficiently, never missing a session, that sort of thing. That's when they can start looking at, how can I get the edge
out of my training? How can I get that extra 1%, which is going to get me 0.01 seconds off my 100-meter sprint time, which could be the difference of making an Olympic qualification or something. That's where all this supplementation research is coming from. And I think, the everyday population just did not understand that at all, is that, it's not for you guys. It's not going to give you results. Results is purely, as Miguel keeps saying, is training volume over time. So training consistently during your sessions, not missing sessions, and doing that week in, week out.
100%.
Cool. All right, what have we got next? Oh, yeah, we talked about that. All right, so lastly, weight loss plateaus. So one thing that's, it's pretty funny that, people don't realize this, but, especially if someone's got a lot of weight to lose, weight loss plateaus are going to happen. That's just what's going to happen. And I really loved the term what's saying is, well, really the ultimate goal is to plateau. That is the ultimate goal of losing weight, is that eventually you do plateau. You just plateau at the right amount of weight. So I think people can't be too concerned and too scared of weight loss plateaus, because they're always going to happen, and in fact it should be the aim for your weight loss. But I guess we've got to work out why they happen, and there's only really two reasons why they happen. Either your body reaches a new equilibrium, and we need to change something around that with regards to your energy input and output, or there's a lack of compliance to the program you're on. Okay, so they're the only two reasons, and you've got to make a call of whether you are.
I might add another one in there.
Yeah, go for it.
Possibly not as well known, and it's called the whoosh effect. And I don't name this. I don't know if even Lyle McDonald, who is very big in the field of nutritional sciences. I don't know if he's coined the term or whatever, but he's one of the guys that's pretty much a big proponent of it being a thing. It actually is. So the whoosh effect, I guess, can be best described in that you've worked hard, you've done everything consistently, and you haven't lost any sort of weight.
Yep.
And then overnight you lose a couple pounds or a couple of kilos just for no good reason. So you're holding on to water, I guess. And honestly, it's really still not even known why that happens.
Yeah.
But that could be still one of the reasons for weight loss plateaus. So I guess we'll talk about like how possibly they might happen, how we get around that and all that sort of stuff soon. But I guess that's the third thing that's the third thing in there I was going to add.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from Lyle McDonald before, but that's cool. That's interesting. Has he got any advice on what to do about the whoosh effect, or he says it's pretty unresearched as well?
It's just kind of, I won't say it's unresearched necessarily. There's a little bit of data, according to him, that supposedly says that visceral fat kind of gets filled up with water after like heavy weight loss, just as a way for the body to adapt. I guess it's some sort of adaptation mechanism, and then all of a sudden it realizes it doesn't need it and it just gets rid of it. Or for the most part, the whoosh thing is water. So with that, when we talk about water balance and all that sort of stuff, it gets really complicated.
Yeah.
Even he says that himself. It's too complicated to mess around with. But women typically tend to have more stores, or kind of like they tend to, I guess, whoosh a little bit more, so to speak, just because of hormonal things that happen to their bodies on an almost week to month basis.
Yep.
But some guys too just tend to store more water, and it just happens, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I guess that's another reason why you can't get too caught up on the number on the scale, especially with the water retention and that sort of thing. People can see, I lost 600 grams this week or whatever, and it's just too inaccurate to determine whether that is, a pure weight loss fact, or is it a difference in water weight. If you're storing water in your viscera, which is like the pockets around your body where your organs are contained, and the layers between your skin and all that sort of stuff, like it's, your body's highly complex, and you shouldn't be too caught up on that sort of thing. It's purely, and we just keep coming back to the same thing, because it is the secret to weight loss, is just making sure that you're adequately training at the right volume over a consistent period of time, so that you are in your caloric deficit overall, combined with your nutrition. So it's It's not about
Yeah,
weighing yourself and being too caught up with those numbers. And I guess that's the difference between a real plateau and a perceived plateau, where the client says, "I just can't seem to lose any weight. I don't understand what's going on." Just keep going for a whole month, and if nothing changes in that month, then we'll have to reassess.
Exactly. Again, that's what people kind of fear, I guess, that they've gotten used to like losing weight at the start of diet, and then all of a sudden they hit a stalling point. They start to freak out and think they're not going to lose any more weight. But again, like you said it before, you said it perfectly. Like, it's a good thing that you've stalled, because you've actually lost enough weight that you've kind of hit a new equilibrium. Like you're in a new place now you've ever been before, potentially, right? So, I was going to say something else. I just completely slipped my mind, but I guess we'll keep going until it comes back.
If you think of it, just yell out. But I guess we've got to think. Finally, we just got to think about when you do reach a new equilibrium. What do we do about it? Like, what's the process from there? They've been super compliant with their process. We know that they're hitting their macro goals. They're in a calorie deficit. They were in a calorie deficit, I guess, technically. They're not losing any weight. They've stuck to it for 3 or 4 weeks. And they're consistently staying the same weight. Well, what do we do about it then?
A couple of different ways I like to kind of really do it. I'm a big fan of really trying to keep food as high as possible, macros as high as possible with clients. So sometimes with that, and even like cardio, I guess, I try and keep it as low as possible they'll lose weight. It just gives you wiggle room to kind of move later. So if you hit things like stalling points, you can throw in different things like, let's say, I spoke before about trying to keep cardio and food to a maximum, and cardio to a minimum. So if cardio is to a minimum, I can really throw extra cardio in there to try and elicit some more weight loss and try and push them through that plateau. Or if they've already done somehow a bunch of cardio, or they just hate cardio that much that they'd rather almost lose, or they've got, let's say, a heap of macros to work with, I might just drop carbs. But sometimes as little as like, I don't know, 40 or 80 calories worth even. Something as little as that, like it's just, you can literally just cut carbs a little bit, or cut macros by the smallest amount just to elicit weight loss again.
Cool. So, and people got to realize that, the only way to break through this plateau is we need to either decrease energy intake, so we just need to consume less, or we need to increase energy output. So we need to, as you said, maybe add some more cardio or something like that. But that is what's going to happen. If you reach a weight loss plateau and you're eating the same thing, you're sticking to it 100%, and like only if you know you're doing it 100%. Like if you're not, if you're at 75%, well then the answer's simple. Train at 100%, don't miss any sessions, eat what you're meant to be eating, and then you'll probably push through the plateau. But if you're doing everything accordingly to the T, and this does happen with some of our clients, then you need to go, okay, well your body's adapted, and maybe it has a new caloric limit, and in order to be in deficit, we need to drop the calories, as Mix has said, to be in that deficit, or we need to increase the output to be in that deficit. So,
I mean, if you're dieting for long enough, and if you're doing like Liam was saying, if you do everything right, and you know you're doing everything right, and you're staying compliant, and you're being consistent, and you're not losing weight after a long enough period of time, anywhere between, I guess, 2, 3, 4 weeks, and you're still not losing weight, you're probably not in a deficit anymore. So if you're in a deficit, you lose weight.
Yep, spot on.
The body fat will come down.
Yeah, cool. And then you can toy around with things with dropping carbs or increasing carbs. A lot of people like to do that on high intense training days. They like to increase carbs. Some trainers experiment with refeeds, and having a higher calorie day, or 2 days in a week. Scientifically, it hasn't been researched enough for us to have an exact answer, except for the fact that if you're not losing weight, it's because you're not in calorie deficit.
100%.
Yeah, so...
we spoke about refeeds before. The interesting thing with that one is, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this before. I don't know if you guys even do it this way, in that I get a lot of my guys and girls to weigh themselves daily.
Yep.
So it just makes tracking actual weight loss a lot easier, because acute weigh-ins tend to be a little bit all over the place. So that way you can compare average weigh-ins to average weigh-ins, week-to-week weigh-ins.
Yep.
But one of the things I find with, like you spoke about refeeds or carbohydrate overfeeding before, is that a lot of my guys that tend to do refeeds, if it's in the right kind of range of carbs or even calories, sometimes we find up to 2 or 3 days post refeed they hit a new low, and that's still kind of elicited that fat loss that we were struggling for with the plateau.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah.
So, again, like you said, it hasn't been really researched all that well. My theory on it is because of the whole leptin thing being increased, which is really a different topic for a different time, I think.
Yeah.
But again, it's one of those things that the human body is just a funny thing. It's such a complicated thing. Yeah.
Yeah, the old leptin. Maybe we'll do another one purely on leptin because it is interesting. Yeah. But yeah, so look, guys, takeaway is that if you're not losing weight or your clients aren't losing weight, you know, don't worry too much about the leptin straight away. Don't jump to the leptin issue. You know, have a look. Okay, are they doing everything they possibly can be doing to lose this weight? You know, are they training the way they should be? You know, are they eating and following their nutrition plan accordingly? And if they are, well, then you might hypothesize that, you know what, maybe their calorie threshold has changed a little bit. It might have lowered a little bit, so we just need to reduce that calorie intake or increase that energy output. Try it, see what happens, and then you know, and don't try it in a couple of days. You know, try it over a period of time. You know, and then if it's still not working, then it might be time to assess something else. But yeah, majority of the time, and that's been the theme of this whole research review, guys, is that you know, we love like researching what's more efficient and how we can get better results with our clients. But yeah, the best programs are the ones that people are compliant with. Okay, so it's about being smart around structuring your training and nutrition with your clients so that they can be compliant with it and they can stick to it over a long period of time, because that's what's going to get them the long-term results. Have you got anything to add to that
exactly
before we leave?
Weight loss plateaus? Nah, that's pretty much it. I think we covered it.
Well, mate, that's pretty much everything we've done. We've got time for. We've just run over an hour. So yeah, mate, thanks for joining me. I've really enjoyed this convo. I hope everyone else listening in has really enjoyed it. You know, we want to record all of these. We want you to share this information with as many people as you can. You know, so with your staff at your gym, you know, or if you've got trainers, you know, you can share it with them. If you've got clients, share this with them. You know, we're trying to make this as simple as possible and easy for people to understand so they can get better results. So any questions or feedback, you can email me, Liam at Successful Health Systems. So my email's on this contact sheet, or Jordan. You can find Miguel on Facebook. Is that right, Miguel? Miguel Morales, personal trainer.
Yep. Yep. You can just find my Facebook page. Pretty easy. Just Miguel Morales. So just search Miguel Morales, personal trainer. It should come up. Or if you want to email me directly, it's miguelmoralesfit@gmail.com.
There you go, Miguel Moralesfit@gmail.com. Here's his personal trainer, Miguel Morales, personal trainer. You can type that in YouTube. Have a look for that picture of him, and you know you'll find him right there. But yeah, mate, cheers again. Really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. And yeah, can't wait till next time where we can discuss a few more things.
Sounds good.
All right, mate. And everybody else.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good day. Yeah, and we'll speak to you soon.